A warm welcome to today's video. Now, what are we doing today? So, we have here a Bosch fuel pump for the XJ40. Now, the reason why I want to replace the fuel pump is because I've noticed that the idle issue is still there. And given the fuel pump is 30 years old, well actually no, older than that, probably original from the factory, I thought I'd give it a go and try replacing it and see if it makes any difference. So on the early models, so that's pre 4 litres I think, the fuel pump lives outside of the tank and it lives on the A-frame approximately here. So what I've done is I've got the car jacked up and supported, as you can see there. So jacked up there and supported on this A-frame mount, which my understanding it's actually okay to support on that. I have, what else have I done? I've covered the bolts there, which look like 10 mils. Covered those with a bit of plus gas. I've covered the Jubilee clip there with some plus gas, and also the joint that you can't see because it's a little bit dark, but the joint there, which is basically the hose that goes to the fuel pump, to the fuel filter, which is there, and then that goes out to the engine. So it looks like pump first, then actually was it filter first? I can't remember, to be honest. I think it's pump first because you got the pipe there that comes from the tank. Underneath I've positioned this large tray because it's guaranteed to drop a certain amount of fuel. Now I'm going to try and mitigate that as much as possible, and one of the things that I'm going to try to do is to clamp that hose so that when I do take it off it's not going to shoot fuel everywhere. I can also plug the hose as well, probably using some kind of extension, extender socket, which I've seen another channel, XJ40, actually use an extender bar sockety thing to plug the hole. But we'll try clamping this and see if that makes any difference. So I'm going to need hands free for a lot of this. So you'll be joining me at various points along the journey with an explanation of what I've done and what issues I've had to overcome. So that's both the 10mm bolts out. The Jubilee clip is 7mm, and I've just undone it and it's just dripping lightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I can clamp that line. So I wasn't able to clamp it, but I did plug it, and as you can see from in here, a fair amount of fuel managed to escape. It's slightly black because it's it's mixing with the oil. So that's the pump pretty much free. It's also the whole of that A-frame covered in fuel. Thankfully I'm in a ventilated space, so it's not the end of the world, but it is just something you need to be aware of. You will get covered in fuel doing this job. It's something I've been putting off for a while. Actually, it's not the most pleasant of things to have to do. Anyway, let's try and get the pump out from the frame. So the next challenge is this 8mm bolt, which holds the clamp together, which clamps the fuel pump in place. You can't get the fuel pump out with the clamp because you've got this subframe stay here in the way, and you've also got the spring and shock in the way. So the way it's supposed to come out is you undo that top one and then you take off the supply pipe, and then the pump should slide out of there. But because this has been seized or in place for a number of years, I doubt that's just going to come straight out. So hence why removing it, so I can gain a different type of sort of better level of access to it. So I've soaked that bolt with some plus gas. Let's see if we can get that off. So removing that 8mm bolt was pretty hellish. You can see the clamp over there, so liberal amounts of plus gas and an extra long extension does seem to have shifted it. There really wasn't much space in there, but what it does mean is that the pump is now pretty much free to come out, you can see there. So next thing to do is to get this into somewhere where I can see it a bit better and disconnect the connectors and the hose here, which is the output side, I believe. Right, let's get that done. So what I've had to do is to detach this part of the pipe from, as you can see there, the fuel filter, quite simply because it was not shifting at all here. So I'm going to have to put this into a vise and see if I can shift it that way, because it's certainly not moving as it stands. So we've got two wires obviously connecting the pump. So we have the black wire, which is negative, and we've got the blue wire, which is positive. I can't see any obvious markings on the pump itself. Hopefully the new one will have some markings on it. Now if we look at this, that looks like either a 7 or an 8mm, so let's get those off. So I managed to get this pipe off, and the way it came off was by clamping the pump and just taking this out directly. So I'm going to have to do the same to this one. So taking actually this out of the pump itself and putting this one in, so just reusing this effectively. I've got enough copper washers, thankfully. So what we'll do is we'll take the new pump to the bench vise, which isn't actually on a bench, but it's doing a good job being here, to be honest with you. Take this old pump out. Now, so you can tell what the negative and positive side of the pump is, the terminals are actually smaller. So the positive terminal, which you can see there, it's actually held in by 7mm. It's actually smaller than the negative terminal, which is that one there. And that's the old pump. That, I'm pretty certain, has been on the car since it was new. So that has seen quite a bit of pumping action. So let's put this one gently into the vise. Don't want to do it too tight. Oops. Try and get that into position. Just needs to be gently clamped in place, like so, so that it doesn't spin anywhere. And that, I think, is a 17, and I'll need both hands for that. So back shortly. There we are, fresh washer on there. That's the old crush washer that came off, and there you go. That now just sits on the pump, and it means that this is going to be a lot easier to reinstall. This end mostly rotates freely, certainly when it's being clamped onto the pump it does rotate, but yeah, it's fine, it'll go back on, no problems at all. Right, so next thing I'm going to do is just a few little cosmetic things. So this, for example, just going to give that a spray off with something. If I have something to hand, it doesn't really matter what the colour is, so long as it's in better shape than that. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll start refitting the pump. There we go, nothing particularly special, but does look a bit better. So the next thing I want to find is a small bolt, which will go into there, so I don't have to reuse the existing one, which was very difficult to get out. So next stage is optional, but being me, I am going to do it. That is to just give this area that you can see there on the A-frame a quick run over with some dinitrile. So I've just chucked down a bit of carbon brake cleaner just to get rid of any bits and bobs, grease, etc. And the next thing I'll do is pop down a bit of rust proof. In fact, it is pretty solid, to be honest, but you can never have too much rust proofing. And also it's a good opportunity to give this a good old clean out, like so, because you do get over the years a lot of dirt in here that you can't get to with a pressure washer alone. Right, let's get on to that. Something else that's definitely worth doing is replacing the fuel filter. Now, I did replace this one a couple of years ago, and I've done a total of, I don't know, I don't think I've even done 300 miles of this filter, to be honest with you. But let's replace it anyway, because, well, seeing as I'm in here, I may as well, and it will be a lot easier to do that with the filter, sorry, with the feed from the tank plugged than it would be without the feed from the tank in a plugged state. So let's start with this one, which I think is a 17. So that's this Crossland filter out of the way. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Crossland filters, mainly because they're the cheaper end of the market, so I'm not convinced of the quality. I mean, they're absolutely fine, but I wouldn't buy them myself. Well, I did, but I wouldn't again. This one is I think this is a Cooper / Fram filter, which is still the cheaper end of the market, but I think it's a little bit better. This bit here is a 22, so you can hold it with a 22mm spanner whilst tightening this up, which is a 17. And the kit does actually come with copper washers supplied, which is rather nice. You do have to, don't know if you can see this, let's see if I can get it, yeah, there you go. You do have to remove that part from the old filter. That is what's going to be joining up with the pipe that comes off the high pressure pump, and there is a suitably sized copper washer in there as well that you also need to replace, and thankfully the kit does come with that as well. They are this sort of size, so they've got a 15mm ish centre. Right, now let's have a look at how the frame is doing and get some illumination on the situation. Excuse the disco light show. I had stripped that down, but probably needs a bit more work. There we go, so we're going to give that a spray down now. I won't video that because you've seen me do it tons of times before. And what I'm going to do then is to refit the pump. Probably won't video that because it's fiddly and needs one hand to do it. And then we will see where we are at the end, or in a minute. So that's the new fuel pump in place. Don't worry about the dirt, that's actually just rust proofing. It won't affect the pumps, it's just on the outside of it, and the contacts, or the terminals, are free from corrosion. Free from dirt as well. I've replaced the bolt, and to do it up I used this. So basically, come up around here, go into there and lock on into place like so, and then you can do it up or undo it as required. What I'll do, I'll put some lithium grease on that once we've got everything else assembled. But now the task that I have not been looking forward to, and that's reconnecting the main pipe from the tank.
So I've just started the engine. You have to prime the pump a few times just to make sure you've got fuel in the line. Takes a couple of moments to start, but once started, just get under, check your joints for fuel leaks, and all is good. If you have enjoyed this, hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and see you again soon. Take care, and thanks for watching.